It's time now to ask the expert on a disturbing story we brought you on Tuesday about a beating that was caught on camera. A 17-year-old boy was brutally attacked by 4 other teenagers, hit in the head from behind and beaten for about 20 seconds straight. Mesa police say it happened back in June at a park near Mountain View High School. 2 of the teenage suspects are students at Red Mountain High School. Police have submitted aggravated assault charges against one of the students and assault charges against the other 3. All 4 suspects were referred to juvenile court. Now, as for the victim, he is still recovering from the injuries. The parents of the victim are still heartbroken over what their son went through that day.
Just don't know how somebody could look at themselves after doing something like that. Could never imagine doing something like that to somebody.
Legal expert Hector Diaz joins me again. And Hector, that video is so difficult to watch.
Brutal. I've been a defense lawyer for 20 years. I've seen, some pretty terrific, terrifying things, and this is up there. It's just very difficult to watch. And again, how they essentially, you see it on here, they sucker punch this, this teenager.
Yeah, no kidding. These suspects, they're facing assault charges. One of them aggravated assault. So what kind of punishment are they looking at?
So, the decision here, given their age, is that they're going to be likely prosecuted in juvenile court. And again, let's back up. They're innocent until proven guilty,
right.
And and they have the right to have a defense. But if they are ultimately convicted, the juvenile court is about rehabilitation. It's not about punishment. And here, they could be looking at the criminal conviction. They could be looking at detention until they're 18 years of age. And so some kind of probation or counseling of some sort. So it is a serious process. These juvenile court judges that sit there, they want these teenagers to be held accountable. So there are a lot of measures and a lot of consequences that these judges have at their discretion to impose here on these young boys if they in fact are found. It's not convicted if they're found adjudicated in terms of this offense.
Right. So the fact though that this happened over the summer, are their schools held liable at all? Because it was actually off campus. It was at a park.
Unlikely given where it occurred. I think if the school is going to be mindful here, they're going to look at this and they're going to, take a look at the students here that engaged in this activity in terms of whether there was any kind of violation of any kind of code of conduct. And so, but whether or not they're going to hold the parents could hold the school liable, again, unlikely, but a lawyer might still look at that in terms of the responsibility.
But could the school actually expel the students?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Each school, most high schools, they have a code of conduct. What you're seeing more and more across the U.S. is that schools now aren't just taking actions against students for acts that are committed on campus, but they're also looking at acts that occurred off campus if they potentially expose their student body to some kind of emotional or physical harm. And so here's a situation where I think the school will look at these boys and take a look at, do they have any prior history? Do they have any kind of prior allegations of violence, and make a decision at that point whether, given the safety of the student body, they should take some action to suspend or to expel these students.
Okay, but what about the parents of the teenage suspects? Could they be held liable?
Yes. In fact, there are a couple different ways that they could be held liable. You're looking, criminally in terms of any kind of restitution that could be ordered here for the injuries. You could see a court potentially impose criminal restitution and that the parents may have to recover. And also civilly, in fact, I believe there's a statute that we have that could hold the parents responsible if there's some kind of malicious or willful conduct, which again, think about it, the action to hold these parents responsible is we have to keep these children in line. You're the responsible party. We got to take some action here. And so, yes, they could be held financially responsible.
Okay, we'll wait to see what happens. Hector, you've been so great with all your insight from the homeless encampment, the zone ruling yesterday that just came down to James Estep, and now this with the brutal beating. We sure appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.